From RTV6 Sports, live at Palomino Restaurant downtown, this is Horseplay.
Well, how about the weather outside? You kidding me? The weather inside, not too bad either. It is week 8 of Horseplay here on the IndyChannel.com, the RTV6 app, mobile device, smartphone. If you're Andrew Luck, you're kind of SOL. You can't really, your flip phone, you can't get on the flip phone.
You got a new phone now by now, hasn't it?
I don't think so.
No, I saw it in the locker the other day. It looks even more beat up than ever before.
You know, I love that about it.
The little gnats flying around, they're just so old.
Tell me there's not...
It looked like Pigpen from Peanuts.
There's not one point in all our lives where we wish we can't go back to the phone we had about 15 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because it worked. It was indestructible. It was never updated plan, and you lose this or anything like that. It was my saving grace.
You think about it. You and I growing up, and Chap, you're probably the same way. Growing up, thankfully, we didn't have cell phones like that for photos that...
Are you old enough that you remember dialing a phone?
Oh, yeah. I'm old enough I remember life before ATMs. Remember how hard that was.
Oh,
See?
Yeah. I hate ATMs. It makes it too easy to get to your money.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is an excellent point, especially if you're out in Las Vegas.
No question.
Like our Brad Brown is. By the way, welcome to Horseplay, Week 8. Jim Sorgi, Mike Chappell, I'm Dave First. Brad Brown was watching this last night in Las Vegas. Foo Fighters, everybody.
There he is.
Is that Brad? You see Brad in the... Is he shooting the video? Anyway, see, so Brad Brown's going to Skype in here in a little bit, and perhaps we'll get the updated odds on the Colts' chances of winning the Super Bowl this year. Which, look at your face.
It went down a few notches. Yes.
Down a few notches.
You think?
Yeah.
It's that stock market approach to the NFL.
You know what? Okay, here it is. Let's go right to the lead, shall we? As the Colts lose on the road yesterday, 51-34 was the final. Both teams are now 5-3. Big Ben's numbers still, almost 24 hours later, are astonishing. A franchise record, 522 yards, fourth highest in NFL history. Franchise record, 6 TDs. Although, how about the numbers from T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief? T.Y. with 155 yards, Moncrief 113. We're going to talk about all this here in a second. 902 combined yards yesterday, second most in league history, behind the Lions-Packers game, which was played nearly 3 years ago. So you take a step back, you wake up this morning. This is one of those games you wonder, did that really happen or not?
Yeah, it's one of those games that you kind of want to erase from your memory awfully quick. The reason we had such big numbers for Andrew Luck and a couple of the receivers, because we had to totally go away from the game plan. I'm sure the game plan wasn't to throw the ball 46 times and Andrew, get hit almost every time he dropped back. Right. But I mean, when you get down that big, that quick, that early, it's kind of hard to stay in the game unless you throw the ball pretty much every down. I mean, we try to sprinkle in some runs every once in a while, but for the most part, it was trying to get back in the game through Andrew Luck and his arm, and we did that. We got within a one-score game with a 2-point conversion with, I think it was 11, 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then obviously, we get the ball back with the chance to tie the game, and then we get a safety, and then it all goes downhill from there.
That's the crazy thing. They still had a shot at winning this game. You go back to the opener in Denver, same situation. As bad as things looked in the first half, they still had a shot to win the game. Obviously, they were up against the Eagles in the Monday night affair. They're close.
Yeah.
Even in the losses, they're close.
I think what's so staggering about yesterday's performance is how differently it looked from the week before.
Yeah.
I think that's why everybody is so awestruck. I mean, you go from giving up 135 total yards to the Cincinnati Bengals, who have some weapons now. I know, granted, a couple of those weapons are out, but you give up 639 total yards to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have weapons, granted, as well, but a lot of young weapons at the receivers who really dominated throughout the entire game. I mean, Big Ben we weren't getting any pressure on him, and when he has time to throw the ball, extend plays, he's tough to defend. When we were bringing pressure, they were picking it up or they were throwing their hot routes. When we weren't trying to bring pressure and just rushing with our front four, we weren't getting there. He was able to hold the ball in the pocket for 5-6 seconds.
Right.
And it's so hard to cover those.
The long touchdown or the long pass to
Brown.
Brown, where Toller had good coverage for 4 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown runs a hook route on the left side of the field, and by the time he catches a touchdown, he catches it on the completely opposite side of the field. It's just hard to stay with a guy of that speed and that caliber of receiver for that long. 639
yards, Chap, after giving up only 135 to the Bengals the week before.
You throw do the math, they gave up 504 yards more than the week before. That's just staggering.
Right.
So I think people were, the NFL is a knee-jerk business.
Sure.
You're really, really high, or you should fire everybody. that was a great game last week against Cincinnati was a great game, probably a perfect game defensively. They're not that good. They weren't that good. And they're not this bad. They're somewhere in between. Are they a top 10, top 12 defense? I don't know, but it doesn't help that you lose Vontae Davis. Now, he wouldn't have made that much of a difference. But you're missing, when you lose Vontae Davis, I've always thought what it does is it's a trickle-down effect. All of a sudden, Darius Butler has to play the outside in base, and
Josh
then
Gordy.
in nickel you bring in Josh Gordy, and it's just, you love Josh Gordy as a 4. You really do. Do you like him as a 3?
But he should stay as a 4.
And Darius Butler's really, really good as a nickel guy, although he struggled a bit this year. But when he's outside, not as much. It's when you lose players, it forces you to go on your depth chart, and you see why a guy was a 3 or a 4 as opposed to a starter.
Right.
In any way, are we going to look back at this game kind of like we look back at the 06 Jaguars game down in Jacksonville when Maurice Jones-Drew went off? Was it 375 rushing yards that game? And you guys went on to win the Super Bowl that same year. This is an aberration and an anomaly because I think this defense is probably closer to the Bengals game effort than it is to what we saw yesterday.
And I think you're right. I think teams need this every once in a while. You're riding a 5-game winning streak. That season, we were pretty hot going into the end of the season, and you need a game like this to kind of bring you back to reality a little bit. You don't want to read your press clippings too much. Like Chap said, you're not as good as you were 2 weeks ago. You're not as bad as you were yesterday. Somewhere in the middle there. And I think once you start realizing that you still need to go to work, you still need to prepare, you still need to execute, no matter who you're playing, then you start to realize what kind of team you have in the locker room. But I think this team was just going on the road. Pittsburgh's a hostile environment, and the focus there early in the beginning of the game was not there. We couldn't stop them on offense. We got down. We scored a field goal to start the game. I love that we took the ball. We would have loved to put up 7, but then it's 3-0. Then you go down like 21-3, and then it's 21-10, then it's 35-10, and it just seemed like a barrage of points.
What was the pulse before we get to Brad Brown, who's standing by Skyping in from Las Vegas? What was the pulse? I mean, you talked about the atmosphere in Pittsburgh. I'm assuming that just going into the game, Steeler fans weren't even sure what they were going to see in that game when it began, or was it still pretty raucous? They were doing the terrible towel routine and everything.
Yeah,
what was it like?
They do the terrible towel. They got a big terrible towel they put on the field before the game that a bunch of people hold. They kind of wave it like a flag, and everybody was pretty wild. I think there was the second game in a very long time that they hadn't sold out, but the people that were there were getting after it. And
wait a minute, there wasn't even sold out?
I do not think the game was sold out. That's what I was told. Yes, and I think that was the second time.
So was it available live locally in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think it was available live.
Okay.
They probably bought out the rest of the tickets, I would imagine. But
there were empty seats there.
That's
incredible in a franchise like Pittsburgh.
And that tells you the pulse of the city. They didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
And again, when you, like Jim said, when it sort of starts going, it just sort of snowballs. And if you can't get that big stop, and you think you're going to get back in the game, and then there's a pick 6, which I don't know how you see it, but Andrew Luck and Hakeem Nicks simply are not in the same book, same light, whatever the phrase one is.
Yeah.
It's amazing because people say, well, maybe he hasn't had enough time to get in sync with Luck, but Moncrief has. It's not that there's something missing there, and we're going to see more and more of Dante Moncrief and less of. The guy that had the more impact was DHB for the Colts yesterday than Hakeem Nicks, but this is going to be one that you just wonder why Hakeem Nicks hasn't elevated his game, and he hasn't.
Well, the pick 6, in all honesty, it was a corner. William Gay was sitting on the route. It was a 10-yard stop route.
He saw the whole thing coming.
He saw the whole thing coming. I think Andrew saw pre-snap that he was getting one-on-one coverage, off coverage. I think he expected the DB to get in his back pedal, and he did for a couple steps, but then kind of locked in and was coming from the ball from the get-go.
He reminded me of, was it Asante Samuel?
Yes.
In the AFC title game when he jumped Marvin Harrison's route for a pick 6, and it turned into 21-3, but he knew what was coming.
Is there anything that Nicks could have done in that situation? Should he have come back on the ball, or that's the route you turn around and you just...
Yeah, not in that situation. That's
okay.
going to fall on Andrew. He's got to read that thing. He had a pre-snap read. He's got to go back to a post-snap. You got to see where you're going before you actually get rid of the ball, and he did not do it there. Now, the one that was a little surprising to me was the third down play that before we kicked the field goal on the first drive, he went to Hakeem, and the throw seemed high and a little wide. It looked like Hakeem was supposed to come back down the stem toward Andrew Luck. He looked like he rounded it off a little bit, and the throw, Andrew expected him to be coming back toward him, and he was not there. So that's the miscommunication.
And that's where I think we've seen that throughout the year. That there's just something missing on where Luck thinks he's supposed to be and where he is. And I've not seen it with other receivers. It's just for whatever reason, it's Hakeem Nicks.
And it's click with Dante. That's the thing.
Yes.
Quickly.
Very quickly. Very quickly.
All right, let's go to Vegas, shall we?
Let's go to Vegas. I'm in.
If only it was that easy. Our Brad Brown is
that
standing
Fremont
by, Skyping in from Las Vegas. Brad, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got nothing yet, Seth.
Oh, no, he can't hear us quite yet. Although it looks
Trying.
lovely there in Las Vegas. No? Brad, can you hear us? Were you outside the Golden Nugget?
Hello.
Oh, no, he can't hear us.
I'm sort of here.
You're sort of... He can't hear us. I'll tell you
Wow.
what. Can we reestablish a line with Brad?
It's coming
here
and going.
Because I really want to know what's going on outside the Golden
It's
Nugget.
here. Hi. Am I here?
You hear us?
Hey.
Hey!
The audio's cutting in and out is what I'll say at the moment here. And there, good. Do you realize it's 9:40 in the morning out here? This is early.
So you're just getting in, is what you're saying?
Or have you not been to bed yet?
Yes.
So, see, I know, this is funny. Just when you try to ask me a question, I have no idea. So I'm up out of bed earlier than I normally would be in Las Vegas. I was here for the Foo Fighters concert last night.
Look at
This is
that.
what we're doing out here. There it is. Look at that. The Life is Beautiful Music Festival was last night. They were the headliner on Sunday night out here. It was great. I got to tell you, though, during the day out here, an NFL Sunday in Las Vegas is one of the most unusual things you could ever do. Everybody's got some action in this, or they're wearing their jersey and they've got their team on one of a myriad of screens out here in any casino in Las Vegas. So on every play, on every snap, on every screen, somebody is cheering because their team is doing it, or they're throwing things at the TV because they're about to lose money on whatever game they've got things on. And I got to tell you, it was 49.5 was the over/under on the Colts game yesterday. I can show you the losing ticket that I pulled out of this thing because at some point I had the idiot,
You took the under?
I took the under. The Colts defense was great last week. Pittsburgh's offense had been horrible. There are a few things more depressing than to see it's 21-3 at the quarter break, I think it was. And then I look up at halftime and it's 35-10. You know you're done at that point. So that was just it. But and then get to the end and see that it was 51-34. Like you guys were talking about, that the Colts had a chance at that thing. Late in the third quarter, going into the fourth, it's amazing to kind of see the ups and downs of this. But going forward, it's just going to be kind of a weird second half of the season.
I've always heard that out in Vegas, like one of the most frantic times out there is day one of the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's, there's so many games. Heck, everybody's got a bracket they filled out anyway, but to be out there in Vegas was something else. All right, so what are the odds? Are there updated odds on the Colts winning the Super Bowl right now?
Yeah, I just went over. In fact, here, let me other pocket down here. It's hard to do this Skype thing when you got two hands. There's the list right there from the Golden Nugget. Fresh this morning. Colts right now are the fourth favorite at 8-1 to win the Super Bowl. The Broncos are favored right now 3-1. They had the Broncos. They actually had see, now I got to stare down and look at this thing. I thought I had it memorized. The Packers at 6-1 and the Cowboys at 7-1 ahead of them. So there's the three ahead of the Colts, and right now the Broncos and the Colts actually are the second choice to win the AFC championship.
What was it yesterday morning? Do you know the odds yesterday morning? Did they go up, down, indifferent?
Yeah, it changed. It was 7-1 yesterday. Now it's 8-1.
So it didn't fall that much.
No.
Not really. I think those long-term odds out here with the Super Bowl, Vegas is not overly fickle about those things. They don't swing too far from one week to the other on that. It seems to be, but to still be the fourth choice at this point, and second, I mean, it's kind of looked like that. Broncos and the Colts 1 and 2 in the AFC, and Vegas seems to agree at this point.
See, that's the thing about Vegas. They're not into emotions. They don't do they didn't do the week to week up and down how your team's doing. They look at the long term thing. Fans do it the other way around. That's why Vegas. That's why they build casinos out there. They know what they're doing. They don't let emotions get involved. So they're looking at this as this is a marathon, not a sprint.
There you go.
There's a reason they're making money out in Vegas.
No question.
House always wins.
If you see this big thing on top of me here, this is the Fremont Street Experience in downtown Las Vegas here. They spent the better part over the years here. I'll turn around, you can do it this way. This is all a big light show down here. They've spent the better part of $500 million down here over the last 15 years building this thing, and that doesn't happen because we're all in there winning our bets on the over-under with the Colts and Steelers.
I wonder how much of the NFL has paid for all of that. I'm not saying the league in particular, but because of the NFL, how much of all of that is built?
I think it's You put
Maybe
baseball,
half.
basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I've read some numbers. I think that on any given Sunday, there's like $100 million of action, whatever that means, in just in Las Vegas, just on NFL games. On a single Sunday, there's $100 million that kind of goes back and forth. Whoever's winning and losing, obviously the house wins is kind of the old adage of that, but $100 million kind of on any NFL Sunday. And then you think about when you get to the playoffs, and you talked about the NCAA tournament out here. Super Bowl weekend in Las Vegas has become a thing.
Yeah.
It is on par with New Year's Eve or kind of that NCAA tournament vibe out here. Hotel rates go up. Taxi rates go up, restaurants are filled, hotels are filled, there's parties, there's celebrities, there's all these big things going on out here. Because if you want to bet on the big game, this is the place you got to come to.
Well, figure it out so we can make some money, my man.
Yeah, we're good for it. Lay some money down. We're good for it.
Bet the over, I guess.
Yeah,
as it turns
always
out.
bet
Don't try
the
and figure
over
out
on the
exactly
Steelers and
what,
Colts.
exactly what you think on any given game. You got to just kind of, I don't know, go with the opposite. I also had the Packers and the under on the Sunday night game, and I biffed that twice on another.
How'd that
on
work
another
for you?
card.
Man.
Yeah, that went really well. You saw the score on that game too, and ripped that ticket up a lot sooner than you wanted to.
Do we need to send money to you so you can come back? Do you have enough money to fly home?
Good. So far, the flight home was on point, so it's paid for. I think as long as I think there's a Dunkin' Donuts right here in the Fremont Hotel with me that I can do breakfast on the cheap here, and as long as I don't do anything weird for the next couple of days, I'll be fine.
All right. Well, if you wake up next to a tiger, call us. Let us know, okay? That's it. He just shakes his head.
all you
Right?
got?
So that's actually a possibility.
Hangover
I don't know.
part 4.
Hopefully, I'll be home on Wednesday.
All right. Safe travels. Enjoy Las Vegas.
Bye, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Brad Brown sitting by outside the Golden Nugget
I love that place.
in Las Vegas. You like the Golden Nugget?
I like Vegas.
You like Vegas? Who doesn't like Vegas?
I'm glad it's far enough away you just can't get in the car and drive for an hour and
see,
get there.
what if we lived in L.A.? It's only a couple hours down.
I made that trip before. Is it Interstate 5 or what is it?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a gorgeous and yet boring trip at the same time.
And
isn't
if
it?
you don't go 80, you get run over.
Exactly.
Wow.
Inside the numbers. By the way, Rob Powers from the ABC television station in New York will be standing by here in a minute as we look ahead to the Colts and the Giants a week from tonight out at the Meadowlands. Inside the numbers, Pittsburgh. Remember the Colts defense was 4 of 41 on third down the previous 4 games. Yesterday they allowed the Steelers to go 8 of 13. And of those 8 plays, I did the math here, the Steelers racked up 124 yards on 8 plays, 15 yards per play. Time of possession heavily in favor of the Steelers. And red zone efficiency, the Colts were just 1 of 3. Pittsburgh a whopping 5 of 6. So why weren't the Colts able, in your opinion, Jim and Mike, why weren't they able to get any pressure on Roethlisberger at all?
It was. I truly think it was a really good offensive game plan. I mean, if we were going to bring pressure, they knew it. First of all, they spread us out. You know, they did a lot of empty backfields. Even with the back, they spread them out. When we brought pressure, they were able to pick it up or see where it was coming, and then they were able to get the ball out of his hands to the hot routes and stay in normal down distance. I mean, the third downs were phenomenal, but they didn't have a whole lot of third downs in the first half. They were doing everything on first and second down. And then when we only tried to rush 4, we couldn't get there. And what else they did is they did a lot of stacked bunch formations with the receivers, okay? And there's a lot of miscommunication by our defensive secondary because sometimes you can in and out it where whoever goes outside, you got, whoever comes inside, I got. Sometimes it's strictly man-to-man. And what you saw sometimes is one guy thought it was in and out, so you get a twist release from a wide receiver in a bunch package, and then the inside guy would run with them, and the outside guy would run with them, and then you leave the tight end wide open at 10, 12 yards.
I think it happened on Josh Gordy one time, maybe a Heath Miller.
It happened 2 or 3 times with Heath Miller, where on a third and 8, 3rd and 7, he's just sitting there wide open about 10 yards down the field after a bunch formation where they twist release the releases by the receivers, and it was just miscommunication on the defensive secondary's part. So we couldn't get pressure on Ben. They did a great job on third down, but it was also a great offensive game plan by Todd Haley.
Heath Miller, man, that guy keeps ticking, doesn't it? How great is it to have a 6'5", 250-pound tight end? That's the standard now
how do you
for
not
tight
see him
ends.
down the middle of the field, 15 yards down the field? You
Well,
want to say, who had him that time? You're looking around, there was nobody. But I don't know if that was miscommunication, like you mentioned. The first touchdown where, was it Bryant got in between Vontae Davis deep and Darius Butler early. It's just there was miscommunication.
Marcus Wheaton, I know, on the very first touchdown. Yeah.
Wasn't a lot of more zone coverage yesterday
Early.
than
Had to go
what
zone,
they did?
They did a
You had
lot
to
of
go
zone
zone,
early with two high safeties, a little different than what the Colts are normally used to running. And then after we realized, hey, this isn't going to work because we can't get pressure on Ben with just a front four, we started to bring the pressure and go single high safety. And then they had a plan for that because they got the ball out quickly to their hot routes, or they picked it up. There was a couple blitzes I didn't know how they were going to pick up, and they ended up picking them up and giving Ben a lot of time.
So many odd plays in this game. We were talking off camera before we started here. The Cole Anderson defensive offsides wasn't necessarily, you don't believe it was on Colt himself, but maybe the Steelers.
I thought I saw
Should've been
one of the
called for
Steeler
move?
offensive linemen move
Yeah.
first, and even if he didn't, Cole wasn't the one that jumped. It was somebody either inside him or outside him that jumped and started pointing at one of the Steelers offensive linemen. So that play really could have gone either way.
The field goal.
Yes.
Instead, you got another shot at it. Very next play, they scored
Touchdown
six,
and
so.
Antonio Brown, which was a phenomenal catch, by the way, one-handed.
How did you see the safety? Was the ball out? I don't know what the exact rule is. The grounding in the end zone.
Mike Carey was trying to argue that the ball was outside the end zone.
I tuned him out. I've seen bad analysis, and his is awful. His is awful. But I thought maybe the ball was outside.
If any part of the ball is outside of the white line of the end zone, the ball is outside. So they would mark it outside the end zone. That's tough for Andrew to know. I mean, he's falling back. He bounces on his butt. He bounces in the end zone. But
Given a second chance, he could just roll out of the end zone.
I do think a smarter decision would have been just try to get the ball out of the end zone and live to play the next down.
Right.
But he did try to get rid of it. He got rid of it. It was actually a really good throw from your backside. I don't even know if I could throw it that far from my backside. Hakeem was about 12 yards down the field, but obviously not close enough, and obviously you're not trying to complete that pass. So in that case, intentional grounding in the end zone, safety.
Let's take a look at Andrew Luck's stats from yesterday. Monday afternoon quarterback at here, 26 of 45, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, sacked twice. Officially hit 7 times. I think it was probably at least triple that.
Somebody was not paying attention during the game.
That's generous, right?
They stopped counting. Club record, 6 straight 300-yard game. Drew Brees, by the way, has the NFL record of 9. Peyton has 7 with the Broncos. And it, by the way, also passes Dan Marino for 4th for most passing yards through 40 games. Just kind of break down Andrew's day, all told. In your opinion, Jim?
I thought Andrew had a good day. He missed on a few throws. He had to get rid of the ball early because of the pressure and getting hit. I think some of the throws he made downfield were phenomenal reads and throws. The touchdown to Dwayne Allen throw was a great throw. The one to Dante was a great throw. But like I said, you get down early, you're going to have to rely on your franchise quarterback and his arm to get you back in the game. And he's good enough to do that, which he did. He got us back to within a touchdown, 2-point conversion. It's just sooner or later, those hits just start to rack up, and then your internal clock gets kind of messed up as a quarterback. You
start rushing things.
You start rushing things a little bit. You start throwing a little bit early, a little high, a little outside, and he missed a couple throws that he probably should have completed. But there was times when I felt like he didn't have time to wait on the throw downfield. There was one we had Moncrief wide open for a touchdown down the field. He gets hit and sacked. So his performance, all told, with the way the game was going, was actually really good. I mean, the last interception was just try to make a play at the end of the game. But the pick 6 was obviously on him.
I'll tell you what, Luck's got a short memory, though. After the pick 6, he comes right back out and starts firing again.
He does.
It's the mark of a good one.
But he still, and again, you hate to be too negative, but he still makes 2 or 3 plays in the game where you're thinking, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just the way he's wired. I don't know. But again, his ability to come back and put it behind him is incredible. But I think what you need to see, and too bad the game got away from him, because I like the way, I don't want to see Ahmad Bradshaw carrying the ball 20 times a game because I don't think he's built for that right now. But I think if he gets his 15 carries, he's going to be productive. And the game got out of hand yesterday. But moving forward, if he can get his more carries, and depending on Trent Richardson, I just love the way Ahmad Bradshaw plays.
And I know the game got away from us, but he did have 6 carries for 36 yards, which is a 6-yard average per carry, a touchdown.
Right.
If you go by what they rushed for, I mean, they're a team that rushed for 2 backs that had over 5 yards per carry. They only had a 3-yard per carry average.
Right.
I thought we did a really good job stopping their run until that last drive. I thought they had a couple long runs the last drive. They ended up rushing for 30, 40 yards on the last drive, which got them
gassed
over the 100-yard mark. I think they finished with 125. But when we were able to rush the ball, we rushed the ball better than the Steelers. So.
Trent Richardson had a hamstring. Take a look at the injured Colts from yesterday. I'm assuming we'll see Trent again next Monday in New York.
Unless you want to give him 3 weeks to heal, because then you got this
You
week,
got to
the
bye after
week,
that.
and yeah.
Vontae Davis had a right knee injury. He was out after the first quarter. Corey Redding went back in with whatever injury. I don't think it officially was announced by the team yesterday. Eric Walton had a hip injury. Ricky Jean-Francois had a hand injury. Josh Gordy, who came in for Vontae, he left for a while. They do get LaRon Landry back today. That'll be interesting.
We should have a bet on whether LaRon Landry talks to the media today.
Speaking of Las Vegas.
There you go, the odds. So, and again, we've had the discussion, do you put him back in right away? Or the fact he's missed a month, do you ease him back in? I don't know how players look at it. I think there's going to be some internal grumbling by players if they simply put LaRon Landry back in there. I think Sergio's played okay, not great, but I think there's a culture in that locker room where they really like what Sergio Brown brings to the team. He's one of them, and there's that camaraderie. And I just don't see that with LaRon Landry. He has sort of separated himself by the way he approaches off-season and all that stuff. So, whether they put him back in or not, I don't know. But I think that if not this week, then after the bye, LaRon Landry's your starting safety.
I agree. I do think he was missed yesterday. I think his physicality would have brought something to that defense yesterday, and receivers down the field, maybe laying a couple hits on those guys, bringing him on the blitzes and leaving him one-on-one with the back, getting to Ben Roethlisberger. I think his physicality was missed in yesterday's game, and really the first time since he's been suspended, I think he would have really made an impact different than what Sergio Brown has done in the other 3 games.
Let's talk about what's next, because a week from tonight, you and I will be in the Meadowlands getting ready for the Colts and the Giants. The Jersey boys will be out there. The Giants are 3-4, lost their last 2. They're 3rd in the NFC East. Eli Manning, this is his 11th season now, completing 65% of his passes, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks this year. Running back Rashad Jennings, just 396 yards, 3 touchdowns. They have enough pass rushers to make 2 teams, I think. Jason Pierre-Paul has 3.5 sacks so far. Jonathan Hankins has 2.5. Former Cathedral star Matthias Kiwanuka, now in his 9th season out there. He has a sack and a half. They lost wide receiver Victor Cruz last week out with a patellar injury, which is devastating. That's an injury that it may take years. It's going to take a while for him to come back.
It took Anthony Gonzalez a long time to come back, and he never really did come back to full form.
Anyway, big atmosphere. They're expected to wear the old school white pants next Monday. They're going to honor Michael Strahan at halftime. And by the way, we should mention Jim Sorgi, former New York Giant. Yeah. So they should be honoring you at halftime. Is what they ought to be doing.
It happens. I mean, Victor Cruz, we still talk and text to this day, and he is devastated by his injury. But we spent a lot of time together because we played a lot in the preseason. His first year was my 1 year in New York, and I threw a bunch of touchdowns to him in the preseason. His first couple touchdowns against the Jets, first preseason game, were from me, and he's a heck of a player. But then he got a hamstring injury, got put on IR. I had the shoulder injury from the same preseason, got put on IR. So when we were healthy, we were throwing together every day at the Giants complex. So he's a heck of a ball player, and he'll come back healthy. But it is a big loss.
Well, he's so much fun to watch too. Let's bring in former RTV6 sports anchor. He's now the sports director at WABC in New York. Robbie Powers joins us here on Horseplay.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Rob.
I'm in and out here on the signal, so I hope you can hear me.
You sound great. How's everything in New York? And which is more interesting to cover? Who is more interesting to cover, the Jets or the Giants? Did we lose Robbie?
Now I heard that.
Hey, buddy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you a little bit here. I'm trying to move around my house here to get a better signal.
Where are you living in Secaucus?
That's not working either.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we hang up with Rob Powers, and we'll try to reestablish a phone line out there in New York. Rob Powers, again, he's now the sports director.
You'd rather cover the Jets, wouldn't you?
I'm thinking. It brings up a good question, though. The Giants are the team in New York. Am I correct in that statement?
Sure, I would love to agree with that statement.
But I mean, if it's either or, the Jets are kind of the
week-to-week soap opera. You got Dead Man Walking with Ryan. You got the quarterbacks.
Rex Ryan.
It's incredible how every year people have the high hopes for the Jets, and then they crash and burn. And to watch Rex Ryan at news conferences, he says, guys, I got no answers.
Right.
Who's your quarterback next week? I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I don't know. You're worried about your job? No. I just think that the tabloids and the New York media loves that.
You almost feel his pain a little bit.
No, you do.
I mean, I would hate to be in that situation. It's I don't want to call it a three-ring circus, but you get guys and they don't get the job done. I mean, Geno Smith was not getting the job done against Buffalo.
He had a 0 rating.
208
how
for
hard
3
that
picks.
is.
That's got to be hard to do. Yeah,
that's virtually impossible.
You take a step on the field.
It's
get
like
one
signing
rating,
your name
right,
on the your college entrance exam to get like a 120.
you put your
You
name
get a
down.
39.4 just for showing up for a game. Like 0 for 9 is a 39.4.
It's funny when you watch Rex Ryan now compared to like 5 or 6 years ago when he walked in. He had that swagger. He was ready to go for the news conferences. Now he just kind of sheepish walks in and takes his beating and then leaves.
he's probably almost counting on getting fired so he can go be the defensive coordinator somewhere and not have to worry about all the head coach BS that goes on.
There is a lot of BS in there.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Hey, let us know. We've got Rob Powers reestablished or whatnot. Just looking at statistically the Giants, I'm not sure what we're going to see next Monday.
Because you don't know. They lose 2, they win 3 against they win at home against Houston and they beat who were the other? They had a couple of easier games. They come up the last 2 games. They lose at Philly and Dallas.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you're going to get.
It's
This
almost
is a new
got the
offense.
feel of like Pittsburgh.
No question.
You're not sure what you're going to get, but they are a dangerous team because when they are playing well, they're playing really well. I mean, obviously they've had some injuries. They lost some guys. Rashad Jennings was out for a little bit. I don't know if he's even going to be back. Victor Cruz is out. The defense can still get after the quarterback. The retooling of the offensive line has been a problem. He was sacked 8 times. Eli was against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is why they lost the game. They were blanked against the Eagles. So you really don't know what you're going to get, but they give Dallas Cowboys a good game, who are sitting there at, 6-1 right now, with their game going into the night. So like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're dangerous. You don't know what you're going to get, but they have the playmakers and the players to give you a really good game and to beat you handedly if you don't prepare.
Well, so many times, too, as the Giants go, so goes Eli Manning.
He's having a much better year.
He's really cut
It's
down
not
the
that
turnovers.
bad.
Because he was a turnover machine last year.
Yeah.
Was it 4 interceptions this year so far? He's
Yeah.
taking care of the ball. Again, he's getting hit a little bit too much, but as long as Eli takes care of the football and doesn't put him in bad situations, this is a dangerous team.
And they got some young playmakers. Odell Beckham Jr. missed a lot of time, camp, a lot of the beginning parts of the season. But since he's come on, especially with Victor Cruz out, he's scored touchdowns, catching the ball, showing why he was a first-round draft pick. Ruben Randall's a heck of a wide receiver. Larry Donnell has had some really good games with them. He's been really good or non-existent at some point, but it really starts and ends with that offensive line. If they can give Eli time, they're dangerous, but if they can't, then their offense is not going to move the ball efficiently at all.
You have the role of going from working with Peyton Manning to Eli Manning, and we're going to get into much more of this next Monday on Horseplay. But just give us an idea of what that was like, maybe contrasting the 2 quarterbacks. 'Cause they are different to a certain degree, although when you see them walking out there, you probably couldn't tell the difference if they wore the same jersey. You know?
Right, and Peyton's a little more animated with things. I mean, he's a little more out there, brash. His
more
leadership,
emotional.
More emotional.
Yeah.
His leadership is more. He's going to be more your vocal leader. Eli, he'll be your vocal leader, but he kind of wants his play
does
to
it
do
in a
the
different
talking.
way.
He does it in a different way. They're both prepared the same. They're both diligent in their preparation. They both fix things at the line of scrimmage very well, comparable to each other. Very, very similar. I mean, Eli is obviously younger. He's in his 11th year. Me and him came out the same year in 2004. Peyton's obviously 6 years older. So, Peyton has, the experience and the knowledge, but Eli does have the 2 Super Bowl rings. Peyton has the 1. It's funny. Peyton is very involved in the game plan, very involved in what's going to happen, what the product that's going to be put on the field. Eli, he does his film preparation, but he lets the coaches really work. The coaches really put in the game plan. He'll have his input, but he does it more in a silent manner rather than very, very vocal in the meetings.
To put a button on this show and bring back Roethlisberger in that game he had yesterday, let's talk Hall of Fame real briefly. Is Ben Roethlisberger a Hall of Fame quarterback, in your opinion?
He needs to be in the discussion. I always say you want to get these guys in the room, so yes, he is.
He's in the discussion.
He's in the discussion.
Will he make it to Canton, though?
I don't know.
He's got 2 rings.
He's got 2 rings, but so does Eli.
He's been there 3 times.
Right. I think he probably is. You know, we'll have Kurt Warner up for consideration this year. Is he a Hall of Famer? Again, the numbers are so skewed, but boy, you can't get past those Super Bowl appearances and rings. So if I had to say yes or no, I'd say Roethlisberger is in. But if you're going to go to Eli, I don't know if Eli is.
Well, see, so if you put Roethlisberger in, then what about Eli?
Yeah.
I don't think Eli's, the rest of his body at work is
Right.
as good. Now, he had those 2 magical years, and he made great plays in the game. I don't think Eli's automatic. I think Roethlisberger is a lot more automatic, and I'm not even sure he's automatic.
Right.
But I like his chances a lot better than I like Eli's.
And I agree with you, but is this a product of the 522 yards and 6 touchdowns he threw yesterday? You know what I mean? I mean, when's the last time we heard of Ben Roethlisberger putting up
Right.
the numbers he did yesterday?
Right.
You know, I mean, you can argue that he was a byproduct of the great defenses, the run games for his Super Bowls. Obviously, he made plays, but they did go to the Super Bowl in his 2nd year, and he had a terrible performance against the Seattle Seahawks in their defense, and your Hines Wards and your Antoine Randall Els and your Bus, Jerome Bettis won that game. I got to see a couple more years from a Big Ben and an Eli to really make that judgment.
I was surprised. Mike Tomlin after the game, final thing here, Mike Tomlin after the game came out and said that he thought Ben was somewhat inspired by Andrew and all the hype and all the talk that Andrew got coming into this game, that it somehow inspired him to have this great game. And I'm thinking, how many years has Ben been in the league? He needs someone like Luck to try, and I just didn't buy that at all. So
I thought it had more to do with how poorly the Colts played defensively.
Right, sure.
You know, again, if it takes that at this point of his career to get fired up, bulletin board material, then we're
Right.
talking about somebody's strange. But no, I thought that was a manufactured storyline by Mike Tomlin.
yeah. Final thing, let's take a look at the AFC South standings. The Colts still up a game with the loss yesterday. Houston with the win. They beat the Titans 30-16. Jacksonville lost to the Dolphins 27-13. See the schedule ahead. Again, the Eagles at the Texans Sunday. That'll be interesting. Jags are at the Bengals. That probably won't be that interesting. Tennessee has the bye. And once again, we will be in New York a week from tonight, Monday Night Football. And it doesn't matter wherever you go, right, Jim? Monday Night Football is big for any franchise. It's going to be big in New York next week.
Oh, yeah, MetLife Stadium. I mean, it's alive. It's electric. I mean, they'll come out in full force, and it'll be a hostile crowd just like it was in Pittsburgh. And you're going to get the Giants' best foot forward, because one thing they do have, they have a great organization. They have a phenomenal coaching staff. Coach Coughlin will make sure those guys are ready, and I think he's pulling his hair out at the 3 and 4 star right now. So we're going to have to put our work in. Hopefully some of these injuries that some of these guys sustain are not serious injuries. They'll be able to get back on the field, especially with one more day of rest with a Monday night game. But we're going to have to go out there and put our best foot forward and our best play on the field and to win that ball game.
You like the Colts next Monday?
I like the way they bounce back, so I'll take the Colts in a tight game. But again, you can't turn the ball over. Already more turnovers this year than they had all of last year. You just can't keep doing that.
Mike Chappell, you can read his stuff and see him on the IndyChannel.com. Jim Sorgi on the radio network, and we'll see you back here next Monday. You and I live from the Meadowlands.
Sea Caucus.
Sea Caucus.
Tell Jimmy Hoff I said hi.
We'll do that. Day first, our thanks to Brad Brown. Hopefully we'll catch up with Rob Powers, too, next week here on Horseplay to get his thoughts on the New York Football Giants. Someone once coined that phrase. Anyway, that'll do it for Horseplay here on Monday. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Colts coverage continues on the News at 5 on RTV6.